Hi everyone, Elsie Jensen. Tonight we are going to do a quick meal because my daughter's soccer game ran late. So we are going to make some chicken nachos with guacamole sauce or pico de gallo and corn salsa. So again, a really quick meal to kind of get everyone fed pretty quickly tonight. So let's start off by getting our tomatoes stewing for our chicken that we're going to do on our nachos, and then we'll saute up our peppers and onions. So I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil in each of my frying pans here, about a tablespoon in each one. And then we are going to start dicing up our onion. Well, we're going to slice part of it and then we'll dice part of it. So we're going to take off this whole kind of outer layer. And I'm going to do some slices on one part of my onion so I can have kind of like fajita veggies to throw over my nachos. And then we will dice up some to go with our stewed chicken that we'll put on the nachos as well. Okay, let's get these. So we're going to kind of cut this down, and we're going to do some nice kind of thin slices. Think about just how you would like it with fajitas. I'm going to turn this guy on about a 6. And we'll let these start to kind of caramelize up and saute. Then we'll throw in some peppers with them, but I'm going to break them apart here. And then I'm going to add a couple more from this guy in there. And this is going to be our fajita veggie part for our chicken nachos. And then this last one, I'm going to kind of do a small dice on it. And this is just to help flavor up our chicken. I have some rotisserie pulled chicken from Costco, which is always a great protein to use when you need a quick meal because it takes out a lot of work. So we'll get these onions sauteing up for that. And I'm feeling my eyes are going to be watering soon because they feel quite strong. Okay, yes. The cameraman is crying too. Okay, let's get these both going. I'm going to give them a quick little toss so that they kind of get coated in the olive oil so that we get them nice and flavored up. Here we go. Break these guys apart. I love fajita veggie nachos. It's one of my favorites. It's something I order a lot when I go to like one of those like cheaper Mexican restaurants. I just love nachos. Okay, we're gonna do our pepper as well for our kind of fajita veggies here. So I've got one red bell pepper. I'm just gonna de-beard it and pull out those seeds. Whew, those onions are starting to get me. I'll do a couple of good shakes here. And then I'm going to pop out this middle piece because I don't like any of it to go to waste. And we're just going to do nice kind of long, thin slices of peppers, just like you would again with fajitas. On here. And then the same with this guy. And I find if you cut your pepper from the inside, it's much easier to slice up than to cut it from the outside because you've got a good texture on the inside, which means your knife has a good grip and it won't slip and slide. Pull off a little bit of that. And we'll get these going. And then we're going to work on our kind of tomato base for our stewed chicken, which I just like to add just a lovely bit of flavor to it. Okay. So we'll have those to pop in there for this. I do have my oven preheating to 425 on the air fryer setting so that I can have our nachos go in on a nice high heat. Okay, we're going to use 1 can of diced tomatoes, and you're going to keep the juice and everything. And we're going to add this in here. Well, let me turn this up. We want it to saute just a smidge more. Get a little bit of a spatula here. Give this a nice little stir. Once they kind of get a good caramelization on it, we will throw in our tomatoes, but I want them to caramelize up a little bit, get a little golden before we pop them in there, really bring out their flavors. And I guess while we're waiting on those kind of start heating up, we can start kind of prepping up our tomatoes for our pico and then our other peppers and whatnot. My goal with tonight's dinner is, let's see how quick I can get it done. My daughter had, I guess, unfortunately, it was her final soccer game of the season tonight, and it went into overtime, and they lost, but it was pretty bitter at the end because the other team fouled my daughter really hard. So we should have had a free kick with about 5 seconds on it, right outside the box. But the ref, who had been biased all game, which you always feel like they're biased because it's your own thing, but he just decided to end the game instead of awarding the free kick. So I would have liked to see what we would have done with it, but you don't have a choice. You have to listen to the ref, even though it wasn't the right call. But so we got a little bit late because they went into the little kind of double overtime where they do like 2 5-minute halves. So quick dinner tonight, but I always like to have a couple meals, that you can just whip up really quick. And nachos are one of those that everybody loves, but it is something that you can cook really fast, which is a nice thing to have. And the ingredients I almost always have on hand because I always have avocados and tomatoes. Okay, so we're slicing these up for our pico. We're going to do a corn salsa, which the base for it, I just have frozen corn that I kind of just defrosted. I think we'll just keep it with 2. I don't think we need to throw that one in. Whew. Onions are getting me. So our onions over here are starting to get a really nice kind of coloring on it. So you can see they're starting to get a little brown and get a little bit of gold into it. And let me give these ones a quick toss as well. I turn this down to about a 6 now. And then we're going to throw in our tomatoes over there, including all of the juice, because we're going to use that to kind of make a nice sauce kind of for our chicken.
Yeah, but when you guys do eat out, where do you go?
Various places. Recently, we've been going to a Mexican restaurant every single time because I like to go somewhere that can get done really, really quick and is kid friendly because cat and dog fight over there. But I like to do something that goes really quick with the kids because you just never know how long Jack is going to last and how pleasant of a dinner guest he will be. So I don't want to ruin anybody else's night out either. So we typically stick with, a quick one in a place that most of my kids will love. Okay, I've got a good kind of little char on our onions here, going for that nice fajita veggie char. So we're going to add in our peppers. And we'll let these guys saute up nicely. And while our tomatoes are stewing over here, I've got a little bit of smoky chipotle, better than bouillon, that we're going to add in. I love this. It gives you a really smoky flavor to it. I'm going to put in about a teaspoon, and then we're going to do a teaspoon of vegetable bouillon as well. So we're going to mix this in, and then I have a couple spices that we're going to add as well. Now, with the smoky chipotle better than bouillon, it's got a little bit of heat. So don't go crazy on it, but it is delicious. And now we're going to do a teaspoon of our vegetable bouillon as well, because we want to have a nice flavor to season up this chicken really well. So I'm mixing it right in there with that tomato juice. I'm going to turn this guy down to about a 4 now. Let's get our onions and our peppers tossed here. Okay. Get a little coating there. And now let's do our spices for our little tomato sauce. I'm going to bring it down nice and low. And I've got a whole bunch over here. So we'll bring it right over here with this. So we've got some smoked paprika. We're going to put in about, I want to say, a teaspoon and a half of smoked paprika. This is a very mild seasoning. It will give a nice smokiness to it and a nice savory flavor. We've got some ancho chili powder. This has a little bit of heat, but it will be delicious. I'm going to add in about a half a teaspoon because I don't want it to be too spicy for my kids or for me. I should really say for me because I can't handle any heat. And then we're going to put in about a teaspoon of cumin. And that is going to give it a nice earthy flavor. Just a shake of garlic salt. You don't need too much, like half a teaspoon. And then we're going to put in some more onion powder, about a teaspoon or so. This is going to kind of thicken it up a little, but also give it a really wonderful savory flavor. Put these two over here. We're going to give this a good stir. And this is going to make a really rich flavor to our tomato base, which is what we're going to throw our shredded chicken into. But smells delicious. And we're going to just let that simmer, kind of come together. Whoops. Lost a guy. Toast those up. Let's get our shredded chicken in our sauce over here. So I have about, I'm not going to use all of this. I'm actually going to probably kind of cut it down or cut it through and just use about half. This is, I think, what is it? Almost 3 pounds of shredded chicken from Costco. Love this stuff. It's pre-cooked rotisserie. They pull it apart for you. So we're going to take a pretty good handful out to start with. And I'm just going to help pull it apart. Actually, I think that's all I'm going to use. It's about half the bag. But you see, it's just lovely big pieces of our rotisserie chicken here. I'm just going to help shred it apart to throw it into our sauce to help bring up the flavor. But this stuff, I swear, is the best to have on hand, especially for busy weeknights when you've got to get a meal cooked up pretty quick. Because it does a lot of work for you. And there's so many different things you can do with this, like chicken pot pie, soup, Mexican. I love to do my taquitos with it or quesadillas.
You have a question? Does the chicken come frozen?
No, it comes refrigerated. Now you can freeze it as well, but in Costco, they always have it like where they have their prepped food that they make, like those fresh prep meals that you can buy, like their chicken Caesar salad and all that. Right there, they have this big container and it's just shredded rotisserie chicken. And I love it. I will say it's just an easy when you want to have something homemade, but you don't need to do all the work. This is great for it. Okay, I've got my chicken in here. Now it's kind of soaking up all of that lovely kind of juices from those tomatoes. Let's give these fajita veggies one more little toss here. And then I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit of garlic salt over them because I do want them to have a nice flavor on them. So just a sprinkle. There we go. And coat it up and we'll let them saute. But again, you don't want to have your garlic salt go on until the end. Otherwise, you'll have they'll burn onto the bottom of your pan. And you see how just using that can of diced tomatoes gives you enough liquid in here to kind of coat it, but you don't have like a soupy chicken, which is what you want with nachos because you don't want your chicken to be too wet or it'll give you soggy nachos. Okay. We've got those. Let those kind of stew together for this. And why don't I'll turn these guys off because they're nice and ready. I think we can start assembling our nachos here and then we'll make the rest of our dips while our nachos kind of bake up in the oven, which actually won't take too long for this. Okay, so big rule of thumb to save you a lot of cleaning, lay a piece of parchment paper down. That way any cheese that doesn't land on your chips goes onto the parchment paper. Grab my scissors here. I've got a nice big bag of Costco tortilla chips. As you can see, I'm a lover of Costco here. And we're going to I kind of do mine in layers on it. So we're going to do a nice layer, spread them out. The nice thing about doing tortilla chips in the oven is they will actually get really crispy and nicer like than just eating them straight out of the bag, because it reactivates the oil that they were fried in to give them more of a crunch. So we're going to spread these guys all out. I'm using my big 1.5 sheet pan on here. Now I like to make a thin layer. We're going to do kind of 2 layers of chips, but I like to do a thin layer of that for that base coating. Not too thick, because you want, again, when I have nachos, I don't want to be eating and then just have chips at the bottom. I want to have all of my delicious stuff spread throughout. Okay, so we've got our thin layer on here. And let me grab my tongs. And we're going to layer our chicken and our fajita veggies and then our cheese, and then we'll do another base layer on it. But having everything nice and hot will allow that cheese on the base layer to kind of cook up a little bit more. So I'm just going to kind of take chunks of our chicken throughout. We'll shake it on here. We're going to put about half of it on now. And again, you don't want your chicken too soupy or it'll make your nachos soggy. Okay. So we've got a good kind of base layer forming here. Put a little bit more. And then we're going to do our fajita veggies. And I'm only going to do fajita veggies on one side because half my family's crazy and they don't like them. Crazy kids. Crazy husband. I will say, Torin and I are great lover of fajita veggies, so I will actually do it 1/3. He likes onions and peppers. He's the kid, I tell you, who has a great palate, who I could see go into cooking. Okay, we're going to do a mixture of cheeses. I've got some triple cheddar and then some queso fresco. My family really loves cheddar cheese, so we always do that. Where did I put my scissors? Right here. But queso fresco is also delicious for this as well. That's that traditional Mexican kind of white cheese on there. And it has a pretty decent melting point on it. And again, I'm not putting all of my cheese on at one time because we're going to do 2 layers. So I've just got half of this. And you're going to do a nice kind of crumble over. This cheese, the nice thing about it is it really does crumble up quite nicely. And it's actually a pretty salty cheese, which my kids love. So we've got our first set of cheese crumbled over. And then we're going to go in with our triple cheddar. Now, again, for nachos, you can do any cheese that you want. I feel like it's something that you can totally go crazy with. Okay, we're going to do about half of this on here. Beautiful. Now, this second layer, I don't do quite as many chips on it as I did the first one. Let me turn this guy off. I'm going to wash my hands before I dig into my bag of chips again. Okay. So you're going to do a nice kind of thinner layer of chips over this top one for it because you don't want it to be too thick to prevent that melting on there. But you got to do the layers because otherwise your top, all the ingredients on the top and then your bottom one is just chips. There we go. A few more. So just enough to kind of cover up that base layer. And now we're going in with all the rest of the deliciousness. And then I just try to place the chicken where there wasn't chicken underneath it so that you kind of have it scattered out as evenly as possible so every bite can get a good amount of this seasoned chicken. And again, we just use some smoky chipotle bouillon, ancho chili powder, cumin, and a little bit of smoked paprika and onion powder to kind of season this up, and a pinch of garlic salt. And don't forget our can of crushed tomatoes. Okay. I think I've got these just about. And then we'll finish up with our fajita veggies on the one side, on the delicious side. And then we'll finish up by making our 3 salsas to go with, because you've got to have lots of salsas on nachos. And I'm going to be crazy, but I'm going to say no beans. I do not like refried beans. And it's crazy because I have a daughter who, my oldest daughter, Elena, she absolutely loves refried beans. It's insane. Like, she thinks they're the greatest thing ever. And I'm just like, I don't even know where you got this love from, because I never cook them. But she loves them. Okay, let's finish up with our cheeses. And then we will pop these in the oven. Loki, let's leave our cats alone. We have her house, or I guess dog sitting my mom's dog while she's out of town. And she's great until she sees a cat. And then she's like, what's this? And she has to chase it. And she is the one who will like launch herself on and like grab the cats by the tail. Poor cats. Okay, so we've got our queso fresco on. And now let's finish up with our last bit of our cheddar cheese. This is the triple cheddar. But again, you could do, pepper jack, Monterey, Kobe, sky's the limit. Okay, I'm gonna wash my hands, and then we're gonna pop this guy in the oven. And we're cooking it on the air fryer setting, which means it's not going to take very long to cook up and to melt this cheese. So I'm going to say this is probably going to take about 5 to 6 minutes to get it nice and toasted on here. So you don't want to over toast it, but you want to get to where it's nice and bubbly and oozy. So we're going to put it in here. Again, air fryer setting at 425. If your oven doesn't have an air fryer setting, you can do convection bake at 425, or you can do a high bake at 450 if you don't have convection. And again, for about 5 or so minutes, but we'll check on it, see if it needs a little bit more. But now let's start whipping up our different salsas to kind of go with this, and our guacamole. So, and I, with my guacamole, I do kind of just like an avocado smash guacamole. I keep it really, really simple. I don't add any of the bells and whistles. If you want to, you can always mix in your pico to your guac to have, that more of that guacamole salad type. Let's get our sweet peppers diced up. If you like things spicy, you can definitely use a jalapeno here to add a bit of spice, but I like to say we're spice babies, but really it's just me and the kids. My husband loves spicy food, but he's alone in that game. So we're going to add in our kind of diced up sweet peppers, and this is going to go in both the pico and in the corn salsa. And my corn salsa, I kind of modeled it after Chipotle's corn salsa, which is delicious. And then we have some green onions. I'm going to cut off the whiter part of the green onion here. And then we're just going to use kind of the nice pale green up into the top part of the darker green, but not the very tips, because those can be a bit chewy. And we're going to throw these in our pico and our corn salsa as well, just to add a nice fresh onion flavor. Here we go. So a little in each. And then we need a sliver of red onion, which is going to give another onion flavor, but a sweet onion flavor, which is why I love red onions. Red onions are great for eating in dips or raw, like in salads, on burgers and sandwiches, but it's not a great onion to cook with because it loses all of its flavor really fast when you cook it, and it gets mushy. So keep your red onions for your salads and your dips. We're going to mince this guy up nice and fine. And then we'll split these between the two. And then I have some cilantro that we'll add in as well. And then to finish those off, we just need garlic salt and lime juice. But then we'll get our avocados mashed. But let's make sure we get a good dicing here, because I like to have the nice finer bits of onion in here. Here we go. So we've got our pico going and our corn salsa. And now I've just got a good bunch of cilantro that we're going to dice up and add in there. Now, cilantro, if you don't like it, just leave it out. I feel like cilantro is one of those very controversial. You either like it or you think it tastes like dish soap. Half my family is divided on it, and I love it. I think it adds a great flavor to it. The fresher your cilantro, though, the less of that like soap tasting enzyme in it. There we go. So mince it up nice. And then we'll divide this between our two as well. Okay. I'm going to wash my hands so my guacamole stays cilantro free, because that would make some people very unhappy. And then we are going to add in our avocados, and we will mash them up with fresh lime juice and garlic salt. And that is my trick to having like the best guacamole. Everybody loves my guacamole, and I think it's great because it's simple. I don't overcomplicate it. I keep it just, I let the avocado shine, and then of course my trusty garlic salt and fresh lime juice. And you have to use fresh lime juice. Okay, let's get our pits out. If your avocados are nice and ripe, you should be able to peel this skin off. No problem. It's only when they're underripe or overripe that you'll have issues peeling it off. And it just makes it easier to mash up. And this is also how you can get that really pretty like slice on it. So we'll get these 3 in here and peel this off.
Your question, how do you know when they're ripe?
So with avocados, I would say 99% of the time, when you buy them from the store, they're going to be rock hard and underripe. I let mine sit on the counter for about a day or 2 in my fruit bowl. And then when they are soft to touch, as in when you give them a little bit of a squeeze, your fingers move in, that's when you know that they're ready. And then I pop them into the fridge until I'm ready to use them. I don't ever have them ripen up in the fridge because they never get the right texture, or and it takes them forever. Okay, let's go check on our cheese, see if it's melted or not. I always like to check. I did 5 minutes on the air fryer setting because you don't want it to go too long. And I think we are actually pretty good here. We've got a pretty good melt on it. So I'm going to take this out, which will be perfect because we'll be able to get these off, put our dips on it in just a second. Let's slide this guy. But look at it. You can see all of our cheeses have melted down, which is why I love the air fryer setting, because it does work so well. We'll slide these guys on here. So I've got my beautiful nachos here. And you can see you've got your chips kind of toasted up perfectly. But you got those cheese and the chicken melted. Beautiful. So let's finish up our dips. That way we can start loading them on and serve up our dinner. So I'm going in here with my fork because I find the best way to mash up avocados for guacamole is to use a fork, because it helps kind of break them apart without making them too smooth. I feel like guacamole needs to have a little bit of texture in it. So just smashing it with your fork gives you texture, but gets rid of big chunks, because I also don't want big chunks of avocado in it. Okay, now that we have this part in, we're going to go in with our fresh lime juice for these. And this is the crucial part. So we're going to do a half of a lime in this one. The guacamole is going to get the whole lime. A half in our pico. And really get it in there. This fresh lime juice is really going to add that flavor. And then for the guacamole, this fresh lime juice is going to not only keep it nice and bright and green, but it's going to give you a really beautiful splash. And you need a whole lime for your guacamole. Okay. Let me wash my hands real quick. Just a little splash splash. We're going to add in our garlic salt to all three of them. So a little shake, 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 shake. And then the guacamole gets a little longer of a shake, shake. And those are all, I would say it's probably like a half a teaspoon to like a teaspoon or so. And it's got to be garlic salt, not garlic powder and salt, garlic salt, because garlic powder will give you a gritty texture. Okay. We've got our guacamole. Let me go grab a spoon for the other two, and we will serve these guys up in just a second. So here's our corn salsa with corn, sweet peppers, red onions, cilantro, lime juice, and garlic salt. And let's get our next one is our pico de gallo with our diced up vine tomatoes, sweet peppers, red onions, green onions, cilantro, garlic salt, and lime juice. Okay, let's start serving them over. So what I like to do is you kind of just make your little coating over it, and I'm just going to keep, again, some of us like it all over and some of us don't, so I kind of do it on all sorts of different sides. Here is our tomato salsa. This one will go a little bit over here. I'm going to keep a nice safe pattern for it, but a couple of my kids love the tomato salsa.
Yeah, question. Have you ever put jalapeno pepper juice in your guac?
No, because we do not like spicy food. I am like the person who can't even handle the smallest jalapeno on there. And then we're going to go through with our guacamole, which is everybody's favorite. So we just have it all on there. And of course, the last step for everybody, make sure I've got to get my sour cream here. We're going to do a couple little dollops of sour cream for our beautiful nachos. Again, we've started with our base layer of our tortilla chips. Then we added on our stewed chicken that we seasoned with cumin, smoked paprika, and ancho chili powder. Then we added on our fajita veggies, which were our onions and peppers. And then we have queso fresco and triple cheddar blend. Then we did a second layer of chips, and then we did the chicken and the fajita veggies and another layer of the cheeses, toasted it up in the oven, and then finished with all of our delicious dips. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, kind of show you what we are making for our family and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on the page. So if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can go to that link, search for what we made. So we've got our chicken nachos, and you can always watch and cook along with me again. We also have a link to our Amazon storefront that has all of our different cooking gear and gadgets in it. I've got my hex-clad pans, my all-clad pans, my wood-staff knives, cutting boards, all that jazz. Everything that I use in my kitchen, I have in there for you guys to check out. But again, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe.